Awesome, guys. Welcome everyone to the first Epoch podcast. Today, in this interview slash podcast, I'll be introducing you to my mentor, business partner, friend, Gerry Cramer. So, I was first introduced to Gerry Cramer when I came across a video on YouTube and I bought his course. And since then, starting as a student of his to then becoming like personally mentored, to then becoming a friend of his, visiting him in Bali and traveling around the world with him to speak at different events, to then becoming a business partner. Gerry's probably been one of the most influential people of my life. And I'm really excited to bring this interview and podcast to you guys to introduce you to him and also to just really give you sort of a perspective into his life and my life, and to just sort of motivate you and inspire you to go out and achieve whatever you set out to achieve. All right, awesome. Sweet to have you here, Gerry. So a lot of people have been excited for me to actually introduce you and for us to sort of discuss our relationship together so they can get some insight into sort of like what I've been up to and sort of how my life has changed. So I think it's going to be pretty powerful to have you on to discuss, not only the way I've grown into like who I've become recently, but also like how you've seen me grow and step into like the role that I'm now playing in what we've created here. So just to give everyone a little introduction of Gerry, first of all, if you want to say hi, Gerry.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So I first got introduced to Gerry watching a YouTube video, and they were explaining how he was Tai Lopez's ex-business partner, top super affiliate in the world. And, I used to watch him on YouTube, living in Bali in these massive mansions. So that's just how I originally got introduced to Gerry. But, since watching his content and becoming friends with him and business partners with him, the humility that he has and the sort of spirituality and mindset skills that he's got has also been very valuable to me. So, Gerry, I just want to discuss. So if you want to just give us a brief rundown of like your history and like your sort of, your sort of path through business and life so far, I think that'd be a good starting point.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. So, the quick and short version is even long. So I'll try to keep it consolidated. But, I was born into a really poor family back in the 70s in mid-America, Central America, the center of the United States in Kansas, actually, to a single parent. I was poor. I had 7 brothers and sisters growing up. And it was, it was a great upbringing, although we didn't have a lot of stuff, I was pretty poor and I didn't have a lot of guidance. I was kind of like on my own most of the time, but somehow I navigated my way to becoming a millionaire sometime after I left home. It took me a while. But I started out as an artist from about the age of 9 until I was 29. It's been 20 years of my life just, being creative and really just trying to find myself. But eventually I turned to online business somehow. Go figure. I don't know how I transitioned and segued from an artist to business, but I think a lot of it was the fact that online opportunities and business is like a natural creative process that is relevant in the 21st century, whereas painting and sculpture was relevant 500 years ago, and so my creative mind, creativity and art is really, it's like seeking out an opportunity to communicate ideas and to connect with other humans and to get other humans to think outside of the box. So it's expressing, right? And so that's how I think I just navigated to becoming like an online business guy, because I felt like, I could still look at the screen and see this blank canvas, and find something interesting to say and be very creative in the process, but actually have an impact on people's lives. So my first couple steps as a baby getting started online was to build websites and to explore search engine optimization and helping businesses grow their presence online so that they could get more customers and stuff. And I just kind of started geeking out on some of the tech stuff. I started building software, but again, all stemming from a really core of creativity and how to like creatively solve problems and stuff. It was really fascinating to me. And I started having success, throughout my whole career. I had some successes, like in SEO, search engine optimization on Google. I mastered, their algorithm and was able to get top search engine results, for the most competitive keywords in the world. I've created some underground software that has had high impact on, Amazon and eBay and some of the biggest affiliate platforms in the world. I've had run-ins with the FBI and agencies out there that haven't liked everything that I've done along the way. And I've also had the pleasure and the good fortune of not only becoming financially free myself, to the point where now I have like a staff of 12 people waiting on me here in Bali. I have multiple villas and I have a resort and I have studios. I have like 14 vehicles and, all of that, the glamorous lifestyle stuff that I don't really care that much about anymore, but it was really cool to get there. But not only all that stuff, but I've had the pleasure of helping other people step out of that same sort of position like I started out in, where I was poor and I didn't really have any opportunities. But I've been able to help others. Like, for example, was 19 when I met you, and you very quickly were able to leverage off of my experiences and my mentorship and coaching to get to the point that you're at now, which I'm sure we can get into a little bit later. But I've been able to witness, helping thousands of my students achieve similar results, where they wake up one day and they have this dream of perhaps there is a better life to be had, that I don't have to go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, get a degree, get a good job, get the 401k thing going and build a house and have a family and just have that ordinary life, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not the only option for people. And so to be able to help people construct their own vision for what their life can look like, that they can travel around the world, live in a different country, believe it or not, like living in a mansion or something like that and having, a staff like maids and, personal masseuse and personal, health coaches and chefs and all this stuff. It's not just some BS dream. It's a reality that you can manifest. It's something that is achievable by ordinary people. And I think that it's all begins with believing that it's possible. And so hopefully through the course of this conversation, I can help you, any of your listeners out there begin to open up your mind to the idea that it is possible, not just for me. I'm not special in any way, other than the fact that I had a vision for something. I had a drive. I was hungry to achieve it. And I set out and I set on a sort of a mission where nothing was going to prevent me from achieving what I was out to achieve. And that was like the real secret to getting to where I now am, and I think that's the secret for everyone, is to just find some inspiration, something that you can, some blueprint that you can follow, some mentor or coach that you can listen to, who cares about you, who can help you along the way, and then develop your own personal mindset so that you can overcome any obstacles along the way. And that's really how easy it is, I think, to ultimately, eventually achieve any outcome that you want in life.
Yeah, and that's like super important. The last bit you touched on there, and which we've discussed before, is like when we're discussing and when we're interviewing people that have hit $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 in a day, through like the methods that you taught me and that we teach people is it's not just some small hack. Like it's not some strategy or some technique. Of course, that plays a big role in it. But like the biggest thing in life in general is having the mindset to actually know that you can achieve that, and having the mindset to navigate yourself through the world to like achieve your goals and step into the life that you want to live in.
Yeah, I like to tell, people, because it's normal to have doubts and limiting beliefs around your own personal achievements, right? So it's more important to focus on getting your very first sale or making your first dollar, online, because that opens up your mind to believing that it's even possible and it's not just BS, right? But once you achieve that small little milestone of success, it opens up to your mind to believe that, well, if I can make $26.34, why not, get 5 sales or 10 sales, and suddenly I'm making $260 a day, or even $2,600 a day, or like in the case of many of our students, $26,000 a day, or even $250,000 a week, like Nick, who recently, just last week, hit his milestone of $250,000 in a single week. Those, I mean, I did an interview with Nick, 2 years ago in San Diego, California, and at that time, he never would have envisioned that for himself, because his limiting beliefs wouldn't have made that a realistic achievement for him. He had to step his way to it, from the first sale to the first $100 a day, the first $1,000 a day, first $5,000 a day, and then now he's doing like $50,000 a day. So
yeah, it's actually like, for most people, right? For most people listening, and like most people that we even know that aren't in the online space, who like have a salary and stuff, these numbers that we're talking about literally seem incomprehensible, right? So,
and frankly, they seem like bull.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. Nobody believes it. I mean, I wouldn't believe it. I would have a hard time believing it had I not achieved it myself.
Exactly. And that's what most people, that's like where the 4-minute mile comes in, where like people think something's so unachievable until it actually gets done by someone that they know, or they do it themselves and they actually start to believe in it and get the confidence. But just so for everyone listening, right? So we have some future projects coming up where we're actually going to be able to, we're going to basically be, I want to open the doors to everyone that's listening here and to like my audience into this like new realm, right? Because I was like most people out there listening right now, like I was hungry for success. I was hungry for change. Like I wanted to step into like a better life. But so we'll be discussing more of those projects in the future. But just to give you guys a summary of like where I've come from, because most of you probably don't really know my story. And my story is basically heavily linked with Gerry. Like Gerry 100%, helped me achieve financial freedom and helped me like become the person who I am. And honestly, if it wasn't for you, Gerry, like we wouldn't be having this call. I wouldn't have this Instagram page where I'm helping other people like level up and step into their power. So yeah, I first remember watching videos of Gerry. All right. So I was in high school and university, and I watched like some videos and I learned about like the matrix, right? And like the matrix, the 9 to 5, the system that you're like born into, right? And so I realized, I originally wanted to be a dude in a suit who just made heaps of money and was like a CEO or whatever, and like worked a 9 to 5. So that was like my actual goal, which is pretty shocking to think about it now. I mean, and most people are born into it. And like Gerry said, it's not bad, but there's definitely other lives out there once you have the perception to see it. So I found out that there was ways to make money online. I found out that I never wanted to work a job in my life after I discovered some of the stuff and the mindset knowledge that I acquired over the years. So originally I had dived into like e-commerce, and I made like a couple $1,000 drop shipping some stupid rings or whatever. But then I remember discovering you through that viral YouTube video of like Ty Lopez's ex-business partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember watching your video and then you releasing your course, and the course was pretty expensive. It was like 2.5K when it launched. And I remember being very emotional on my parents' bed, in my parents' bedroom, like basically telling them how this is like, I know that this is like the pathway to success. This is the pathway to my new life. And I was practically begging them to like pay for this course. And I was like, you don't have to buy me any Christmas presents or birthday presents. Just buy this course for me. I guarantee like our whole life's going to change. And yeah, so I bought the course, and I learned all your strategies and methods. And, you know, I was doing a lot of inner work, like spirituality, mindset work. And I remember when I first bought it, you had a little questionnaire there which said, like, what's your superpower? Because that's something you're big on, like leveraging your superpower for other people. I remember telling you this before, but I remember writing down that like I could optimize my timeline to like get myself to where I want to be. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but of course to you, it doesn't sound crazy, and to most successful people. But I remember learning all these sort of esoteric spiritual mindset ideas. And I remember watching your videos and saying, I'm going to be with you in Bali one day, discussing how I used all these mindset exercises and all these skills to get myself into that position and like discuss stuff with you, which actually ended up happening. And, you know, we chilled together in Bali for like a week or two and had some pretty insane conversations about, you know, mindset, spirituality, life, success, money, you know, all the best conversations that we could have, biohacking, health, all that sort of stuff. So that was basically the start of my journey, right? Was literally that conversation I had with my parents, like begging them to let me into this thing, which, I mean, talking to them now, they still find it unbelievable. You know, like I quit university, making like thousands and thousands of dollars a day, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to where we are now, where we're now partnering in this new project. So I think for everyone out there, like the path I've had, you know, like law of attraction played definitely a big role in it, and developing the mindset to actually, you know, have the confidence to know that you can get where you want to go, and all it takes is literally just the mindset and also the right path. So I don't know, you know, if coincidences are real, but the coincidence of me watching that video, getting introduced to you, and where we are now is like, you know, if I never watched that video or I never dived into mindset stuff, like we'd never be here together.
Well, you know, I mean, that interview, I think, served for you as a seed or the birth of a dream of it inspired you and it awakened you, some part of you, and you got really excited by it, by the sounds of it, and you went to your parents and they could probably feel just this bubbling, you know, excitement because you were turned on to the possibilities. And you know, that's the great thing about doing interviews like that. Like I did that interview with Mike, and then, you know, we're doing this interview now. And the cool thing that I like to do is look back and look forward, you know, and then be, you know, be awake here in the moment. But to recognize that, you know, interviews like this, that there are people out there watching this right now that are being awakened, that are going to be inspired by this video and any future videos that you do make, or sorry, podcasts or whatever. You know, where they're going to be awakened by that, and they're going to be inspired by that, and they're going to be sitting on their parents' bed saying, Mom, Dad, can you please, you know, help me get started here? Or at least it's going to point them in the right direction and get their, you know, kind of stoke their flame to take that next step forward.
Yeah. And I mean, that's literally why I created the page that I have now, is to just offer like a resource or a place someone can go to just get inspired, to like have curiosity, to like want to achieve more. Because I mean, you know, life right now for many people is pretty difficult, and like the current situation and whatever, a lot of people are dealing with a lot of stuff. And if you're not exposed to certain things, then you don't grow, right? Like if you're just living in your house, you don't even go on the internet, like you're going to have no growth. So being exposed to like the concepts that made me want to become financially free and like break out of the matrix, then led me to watching your video and so on to where we are now. But you know, so just like an overview of like what then happened. So like I had success with your course, you know, you invited me on to be interviewed, and we had that very first interview. And then from there, you know, you guys and your team actually flew me out to first Las Vegas, right? So flew out to Las Vegas. I spoke on the stage in Las Vegas where we first met each other.
What, there
And
was like about 600 people in the
yeah,
audience there?
it was massive. Yeah. And that was like the first time ever, for me, just being like sort of introverted back then. Of course, I've sort of obviously come out of my shell a lot more with, all the stuff we've been doing. But yeah, I remember bringing my brother over and him just seeing like hundreds of people swarm around me. And to me, that was pretty insane that like people were just trying to get like 2 minutes to like talk to me and stuff. So it was pretty crazy. But then from there, we then went to the conference in San Diego, which was even bigger. I don't know how many people there were. It was like 700 people or something. To then flying to the private mastermind that we had in Bali, and just being a mentor for the group and being a part of the community really gives you a lot of satisfaction, as well as like, I don't know what the word is, like you just feel really like, it makes you feel really good being able to help people, like if you're making money or you have this sort of knowledge or whatever, like if you're not really sharing it with anyone, it's kind of selfish to an extent. And that's where I think some people can get trapped in like this sort of greed of it.
Yeah, I like to think of that as just, having a purpose, a bigger
Yeah.
purpose than just your own, personal goals. Because in the beginning, you kind of get wrapped up in these personal, I don't know, whatever attracts you into it originally. So like you were saying, originally you envisioned yourself, wearing a suit and having a certain, it's like an ego based elementary sort of starter pack,
Yeah. Like
that we all have.
Lamborghini.
For me, when I was 18, I envisioned myself like schmoozing with these, like rich guys on the golf course to try to like win business, and become like an architect and a respected professional. That was my vision in the very beginning. It was what got me started, envisioning my future, but then it evolved over time, but it all starts somewhere.
Yeah. And like a lot of people, it's really big with everyone, but especially you drilled it into me, was like the why, like the driving force behind why you do everything. So
Yeah.
the why is like super important. So a lot of people I see their whys, and I mean, a lot of people in this that are listening to this probably don't, a little bit more advanced, I think, in the mindset type of thing. So a lot of people's whys are like, oh, I want a Lamborghini, or, I want to be rich to have a Lamborghini and like all these girls and like the Dan Bilzerian type of lifestyle. But that's very like shallow why, and it's not going to actually drive you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Where when I first joined the course, and you were discussing the why and why it's so powerful, it was actually for my family, right? Because my family had been dealing with like financial struggles, like they'd lost their jobs, mortgages, all that sort of stuff. So my why was to first of all like exit the matrix, right, and be like fully financially free to experience life and not be trapped in this system that's like just a really bad system, but also to then extend that abundance to my family, to help them with their financial issues.
Yeah, I remember you saying something in that interview about, one of your goals was to help pay off your parents' mortgage so that they would allow you to drop out of college.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then now we had a recent interview where you shared how, you had helped your older brother, just a couple years older, I guess, achieve financial freedom as well. So
Yeah.
that is, you're right, man. I mean, absolutely, having a strong why or a purpose that's bigger than yourself is so motivating and so important to the journey of achieving financial freedom. Because, it's, hey, first of all, there's nothing wrong with having a Lamborghini or, nice stuff and exploring the shallow depths of material things. That's okay. And it's fun. It's exciting, and it does boost your ego and your confidence, and it makes you feel like, oh, cool, like I can do this, hey, whatever. But that runs out real fast, and you get to the point, it depends on how evolved you are. Everyone evolves at a different pace, but eventually you will end up kind of thinking about like, what greater purpose do I have on this planet during this life? Life is fleeting. I won't be here forever. There are people that I love, and I have these dreams of like changing the lives of others. You know, maybe it's your parents, you know, if you're still young. Maybe it's your siblings as well. Maybe it's your children if you're a little older. You know, or maybe it's you know, some bigger mission to have an impact on society or your community in some way. Like, all of those are very honorable, you know, visions or purposes or reasons why. And it's important to understand, because through the journey of achieving success, you're going to encounter roadblocks, challenges, and you'll sometimes see those as impenetrable blocks, these brick walls that you cannot seem to break down. They just want to stop you in your tracks and derail your success. And if you don't have something greater than yourself, if you don't have something greater than a vision of driving a fancy car that's fueling you, that's driving you, then you're not going to make it, right? But if you see the love for your parents or for your children or for other people, something bigger than you, you'll push harder and you'll make it through those seemingly impossible roadblocks. And you'll realize that, you know what, nothing can stop me, nothing.
Yeah. And you know, what you said's so true as well. Cause yeah, driving a fancy car, like, it shouldn't be the goal. It's just a side effect of having success, right? So like, if you're striving to have a meaningful life and become abundant and live like an abundant life and provide for a lot of people, you know, because one of the biggest things I learned is, you know, changing your mindset around money is like energy. So, you know, a lot of people think money is like the mindset is the root of all evil, right? And
Yeah.
so it's, you know, having money is able to, you know, create an abundant life for yourself and then also extend that abundance to other people. And if you are financially free, imagine all the time that you have to like build up knowledge. For me, at least, you know, like, I don't have to, like, my biggest thing for mindset is, you know, I don't have to work a job, you know, so I'm not confined by my time. So I can go out there and spend my time gaining knowledge and pursuing like the deeper aspects of life, which I really enjoy. But also, you know, when you build up enough wealth, like for me personally, I think it would be sick to drive a Lamborghini, but that's not the goal. It's just going to be a side effect. Like, I think it would be cool to own a Lamborghini and a mansion, but also like a hut, a little villa in Bali and like riding horses and stuff. It's just all a part of the experience. And when you sort of just get away from like the ego aspect of it, it's more about the experience of like living and experiencing these things in life. But it should never be the goal, because it's not going to drive you enough, and it's very shallow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think so the other thing is like law of attraction, I think would be really good to discuss, because I mean, when you discuss this stuff with most people, like we've talked about when I was with you in Bali, it's like a lot of people that are in the system or don't really have many goals or don't really have the mindset like us think it's all like woo woo sort of, oh, that stuff doesn't really work, blah, blah, blah. But so when I was first on the journey, I would discuss all these sort of deeper concepts with my friends and people, and they would just sort of blow it off and not really be interested. But when we first talked, that was something that we really connected on and dived deep on. And that also gave me the confidence to know that this sort of the mindset, spiritual, esoteric knowledge in the world is being used by successful people. And most people that you talk to, like the masses, blow it off. But like, so that's like, a lot of people say like in the secret, like that's the secret, right? So for me, I know that, you know, I've like manifested this life, even though it's kind of crazy to think that. Like, it's always surreal jumping on here, just being able to message you on WhatsApp, being like, hey, do you want to jump on a call? Where I used to literally be on my laptop watching videos of you, just imagining that I could be in this life. So for you, like, what are your thoughts on law of attraction? Because I know you're pretty big onto that.
I am. You know, I really got into that, I would say 13, 14 years ago, something like that. And it was actually at the time when that movie, The Secret, came out. That was my first introduction to the concept or the law of attraction. And it influenced me greatly. I actually got on a plane and flew to San Diego, California, in part so that I could seek out my own mentor, much like I guess you did. And for me, my first mentor was John Assaraf, who was one of the lead subjects in that movie, The Secret. And he happened to live in San Diego. And so I flew out there, and within, maybe 3 months, he was my personal mentor, business mentor, and also personal development coach. He taught me the power of meditation, and I meditated with him. And he just imparted a lot of really valuable insights around the subject of the law of well, a lot of different laws, actually, not just the law of attraction, but it goes a lot deeper than that. So he was able to go much deeper into some of these concepts than what I realized. I realized that law of attraction is just like the first little branch of the tree. Yeah,
it's like the entry level stuff,
but,
and that's
it's a great entry level because it gives somebody something that they can comprehend and focus on and learn. And that's how he also taught business, by the way. He focused on something very specific to wrap your brain around, and you can excel at that before you move on to the next thing. But yeah, for me, law of attraction, I think, was pivotal for me. It opened up my mind to understanding the power of belief, the power of limiting beliefs, and the power of believing in abundance, and recognizing my own limiting thoughts and patterns of belief. For anybody out there who's ever seen that movie, by the way, John Assaraf was the guy who talked about vision boards. And he told a story where his 7-year-old son, who was also named John, was digging through, he was moving into this mansion in San Diego, and his son opened up this box and he pulled out this thing and he said, "Dad, what is this?" He goes, "Oh, let me look at that. Yeah, that's one of my early vision boards." And he goes, "What's a vision board, Dad?" He said, he looked at it and he said, "Well, a vision board is something, I post, I paste, cutouts of these dreams and visions I have for myself that I want to manifest into my life. And then I think about it every day. I look at it every day, and it helps me to bring into reality those visions for myself." And at that moment, he broke down into tears because he looked on that old vision board and he saw that the photo that he had clipped out of a magazine was the actual house that he was moving in. They had just been, remodeling it over the last few months. And it wasn't just a similar house. It was the exact house that was in a designer magazine that he clipped out, put on his vision board. And now here he was moving into that very house, some number of years later, like 12 years later or something. And it helped him realize the power that vision boards actually do work, and that imagining your future before it happens actually does play a major role in bringing it to fruition and making it a reality for yourself. But that was just one of the lessons, that I learned from him. But he taught me so much more. I started practicing meditation regularly. I started practicing, I want to say, a law of attraction, but really just designing my life and trying to figure out the pathway to manifesting, the vision that I had for my own life. So I learned a lot of lessons, and I got to the point when I first started out doing it, it seemed challenging, but I just had to put myself into it and believe in it, believe in the process, and sort of just go into it blindly and have an experience. And then, after a number of months and then years, I got to the point where I could effortlessly manifest pretty much anything in my life. And it's like developing a really good skill, or let's say like juggling. In the beginning, you have to put a lot of thought and practice into it, and it seems almost impossible, and you feel clumsy and klutzy, and you probably can't do this. And if you ever do, you'll be lucky to get a few little juggles. And eventually you can have a full-on conversation while juggling, and you don't even think about it because it's just second nature. And that's where I am with law of attraction. I only have to ask and envision it and decide that that's what I want, and it comes to me. And there's no effort in it. It's just effortlessly juggling, and whatever I want comes. It's not like it doesn't require work, because of course that's the laws of the universe as well. Physics are involved. You have to do the work. But the for most of us, though, we feel that no matter how hard we work, we still can't get the results that we desire. And that's a mindset limitation, right? Yeah. So once you get aligned, where your thoughts and your belief system are aligned with your actions, that's where the real results come in.
Yeah, because if there's any hesitancy, we can dive a little bit deeper into the actual how it physically you can actually manifest stuff. Because to some people it might just sound like, oh, you just imagine something and it happens, but it's not just like that. But for a lot of people, yeah, it's the hesitancy, right? So imagine you're playing, I don't know, NFL or something, right? If you're going to go for a tackle, or you're going to go kick a field goal and you hesitate, you have a limiting belief, you're not going to kick that field goal, And the way I like to think of it is spirituality is literally, it's biologically, we evolved biologically, physically, and our spiritual elements evolved with us. So being able to align yourself to the universe wants you to be able to do that, right? It wants you to be able to align with it so that you can live a good life, so it can experience that life through you. And a lot of it is just aligning yourself to these universal laws, where when a lot of people, for example, cause and effect is one of the biggest ones, which is also a part of law of attraction. But a lot of people whose lives are in chaos is because they don't understand these natural laws and they go against them. And the most basic one, right? Cause and effect. If someone out there is gambling all their money or eating all this junk food, and then 5 years down the line, they're overweight, they have health issues, it's because they neglected the law of cause and effect. They didn't realize that the actions that they're taking right now are going to have a massive compounding effect in the future. So, yeah, with law of attraction and manifesting stuff, we discussed in Bali, it's more so having the mindset to actually receive the opportunities. Mm-hmm. So for example, when I was diving into it, it was seeing your video, watching your video, buying the course. That was the opportunity that showed itself to me, and which then led me to here. And then further in our relationship, spotting different things, using leverage to then build a relationship with you, right? Because I was just one of your random students. So building a relationship with you, providing value, spotting opportunities where I can build upon and add value, and then basically manifesting the goals that I want in life as well. So
let me step in and I think that this is really important, okay? For your audience, right? For people who haven't really yet achieved what I've achieved and what you've achieved, right? Is that moment in the beginning when you step into that role of manifesting something into your life, right? So I think it's really important to establish a confidence that whatever it is that you want is going to happen. So there's a big difference between saying okay, universe, I want this, or between that and saying I believe that this is my future, really believing in it. I've developed personally to the point where I don't say what I want. I don't believe what's going to happen. I just know it. And that's the ultimate state of manifestation, where you just know it, that it's going to happen. And I would guess that when you made that decision in your mind that you are going to be sitting with me in Bali someday, in person, that it wasn't you weren't telling yourself that it's possible. You weren't telling yourself that I believe it. You were saying, I am going to, I will. And that's a key factor that you have to tap into a belief. And for some people, they say, well, that's really hard, Gerry. Like, how can I tap into that belief? I don't really honestly believe it. Well, here's how you do it. This is why I say it's so important to make your first dollar online and to get your first sale, because by having these little micro achievements, reaching these little micro milestones, that's what helps you develop confidence and belief, right? And this knowing that you can do it, right? That confidence and that belief is what puts you into the point where you can say, I know that it's going to happen, because every time that I say that I'm going to do something, I do it. I consistently achieve the goals. And you start small like that, you build up your confidence, and eventually, like, right now I'm working on a reality TV show here in Bali. And, I caught myself saying that, like, I'm going to do a reality show, and like, oh, that would be cool. I'm like, no, it will be cool. It's going to be fucking awesome, because I know it's going to happen, And so now we have a resort here. We've been building it for the last year and a half. Everything is in line because I envisioned that. I didn't have any doubts. I knew that it was going to happen, and so it will,
Yeah.
And I think that that's just a key thing that everyone you have to start somewhere, but you do have to jump in and start developing that confidence in yourself and start telling yourself that not only is something worthwhile, not only is it possible, but if you want it, it will happen.
Yeah. And, a lot of people, I think, deal with, negative thought patterns that are imposed from, just mainstream society's programming, or maybe even their parents and stuff. And it is literally about sort of, the first step is like overcoming your negative thought patterns. Because if you go out there and you have, if you have negative beliefs about stuff, that's sort of manifesting those negative beliefs, So because it works in the both ways. If you're constantly thinking, oh, I'm going to go out and get like harassed, or I'm going to, like, something's going to happen bad to me, or I'm never going to make it. If you're telling yourself that, you're aligning your brain to optimize for that. Whereas if you're telling yourself, like I told myself, like, I'm 100% know that I'm going to be, like, working with Gerry. He's going to be my mentor. We're going to be building stuff. We're going to create a lot of cool things. I'm going to be sitting here talking to you and have this relationship with you. My brain is now optimizing to get myself there. Like, not even on a woo-woo level, just like psychologically, my brain is like optimizing to do this sort of stuff and react the certain ways and pick up on the certain opportunities to get me there. But then also in the sort of spiritual law of attraction way, I'm like harnessing that energy and sort of connecting my current timeline to that timeline where I get there, and that actually happens. And aligning yourself and like telling yourself that it's going to happen and it is already happened, then allows you to pick up on the opportunities that ultimately lead you there. Because it's not just like, I'm going to become financially free. It's like, all right, I know that I'm going to be financially free. And because I know that, I can now spot the opportunities and the steps and the actions that I need to take to get myself there.
One of the biggest obstacles that people experience in dealing with the law of attraction is just not really understanding the important points along the way, right? So if you don't mind, I'll share a little story, okay?
Yeah, sure.
About it. Okay. So one of the things that I learned from John was that the law of attraction is not quite as simple as just saying, yeah, I want a red bike, and then a red bike shows up at your door. That's a really oversimplification of the reality of it, but it's kind of like that, and it can happen that way. But when things get a little more complex than the red bike, and there's something, bigger you want in life, let's say that you want to manifest this perfect relationship, or you want to become a millionaire, a red bike can land up at your doorstep. A briefcase full of $1 million isn't going to land up at your doorstep. There's going to be a process involved, right? So here's this little story that helps illustrate this point. Okay. There's a lady, and she's at home. She's a designer, and she lost her job. She's out of work. Okay. And she's down to her last $50. And she believes in the law of attraction, and she's open to it. And she wants to manifest an opportunity into her life. So she's sitting at home and the doorbell rings. Okay. She's been busy all week. She's been putting in job resumes and she just hasn't had any success. She's actually been out of work for almost a month now, but she's trying. She's doing everything that she can and she's keeping her faith. And she believes that if she believes it enough, it's going to happen. And her mind is open. Doorbell rings. She opens up the door and there's a little girl standing at the door and she's like, ding dong. She goes, hi, would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies? And she's like, and she's stuck in this moment. She feels something. There's something about this moment. She can sense that this girl is this moment is relevant. She has like that glitch in the matrix moment, if you will, where, you see the cat pass you twice, or it feels like deja vu, right? Yeah. And you're suspended there. And what most people will do is they will brush it off like it never happened. And then they'll just go about their way. So let's imagine that one Y in the road, she says, oh, wow, I would love to buy some cookies from you, but you know what? I'm down on my luck. I only have $50 to my name and I can't afford it right now. But next year, I promise you, I'll buy 2 boxes, right? Now, the other Y in the road, she trusts her instincts that something is weird here. And she just rolls with it, right? And she goes, you know what? I'm kind of down on my luck right now, but there's something special about you. I only have $50 in my bank account. I want 10 boxes. And she just, and the little girl in this case, the little girl goes, are you serious? She goes, and she runs out to her car and her dad is in the car. And he comes walking up and he's like, wow, that's really, really great of you to do that. And she's like, don't I recognize you? I know I recognize you. And she's like, oh, you're Mr. Mills. Aren't you the CEO of this design company? I just put a resume in down at your business last week. And he goes, oh, wow, that's amazing. He's like, well, you know what? Why don't you come in Monday for an interview? I would love to personally interview for the position. And, and that was the key thing right there that I think a lot of people fail to realize is that it's not just about asking for it and expecting it and believing in it, but it's also about recognizing the knock on your door and seeing it for what it is and going with it and actually receiving the universe putting that thing in your lap, because the universe delivered that little girl to her doorstep, her father. And if she hadn't taken action on it, if she hadn't trusted in her instincts, her intuitions, and looked for it, she wouldn't have even seen that it did actually arrive on her doorstep. Yeah. And I think that's where most people fail with the law of attraction is they don't know how to receive the thing once it's delivered to them. They fail to even observe it and they just send it away like, oh, that's not for me. Like, they don't see it.
And, I'll give you another story that's literally like that. Because a lot of people might hear that story and be like, oh yeah, that's just like some hypothetical story, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Which I mean, the way you think is your reality. So if you think that's actually possible, that's possible. If you think it's not, then you're never going to get those experiences in your life, right? So I was camping with my friends down at we were just camping right down at some like lake, campground sort of thing. There was like 6 of our mates and my brother, right? So my brother, he likes DJing and he's into music and all that sort of stuff. So he's really been into DJing for ages. While we're camping, sitting around we walk to like some lookout. On the way back, my friend sees his friend who they're like shocked because we're like hours away from where we all live. And he's like, oh, what are the odds that we meet here? Blah, blah, blah. They talk and they're like, oh, come to our campground tonight and we'll hang out. So our group goes back to our campground. We don't see the other guy. Meanwhile, we're like debating, do we want this guy to come to our campground? Because only one of the people in our group know him. My brother was actually hesitant and saying, nah, let's just hang out. Like we all came here by ourselves. I don't really want some other person here. Then he's like, actually, you know what? May as well just bring him. Why not? The guy comes, we call him up. He comes over to our campsite. My brother and him start discussing, right? And this guy's also a creative person. He's also a DJ. So they start discussing, my brother starts telling him how he's a DJ. They start, bonding over that experience. Then he's like, oh, we have a gig coming up and we're looking for another DJ. So then from there, he then went and DJ'd at some big event that was pretty big, and it was like one of his biggest events. You know, so
Yeah.
he was literally hesitant to like invite this random guy to our campsite, and then all of a sudden we invite him, and then that opportunity arose. So that's like literally an experience that is mirroring the one that you sort of had there.
Okay. Now the audience might be saying, okay, well, we have a hypothetical that illustrates the points. Great. We have a really interesting, campfire story where, some guy, met like a real, an ideal a partner, and some really cool opportunity sprung up from, kind of going with it. I'll share you another story. This is probably the most profound one that I've ever experienced. And I think that this is the one that turned me on to no longer believing, but just knowing that I'm plugged in. Okay. So I go to this meetup in San Diego, a random meetup for SEO, right? Search engine optimization is like 20 people show up. And because I was successful at SEO at the time, I was kind of like spotlighted in that group, right? And I had a bunch of people come up to me and wanted to meet me in person afterward. And this guy from Australia, he's like, "Can I meet you? I have some questions for you. Would you mind to meet me tomorrow at like 9:30 at La Jolla Beach?" I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure, no problem." So I wait. I go home that evening, and I talk to my wife, and I'm thinking about my own business because I'm kind of on the brink of it. I have a bunch of software but I have not yet hit my big breakthrough success, right? And I tell my wife, I'm like, she knows I'm big into law of attraction. And I tell her, I have this vision in my mind. I'm like, there's this particular guy. We'll just call him Russell Brunson because
that's actually him. If anyone's in the internet marketing space or anything, you should know who. Yeah, Russell Brunson.
He's one of the bigger celebrities in the space. Anyway, back at that time, he was already successful. He was doing, millions of dollars a year, and he had an audience, and he would, if he did a product launch, he would probably make $1 million or something. And I thought that was a big deal. And I thought, well, you know what? I was like asking myself, how can I because I have great software. I have amazing software, like 20 different software, but I had not yet figured out how to put that out to the population yet successfully. Mm-hmm. But I had great software. I just didn't have that. And I thought that's the key is I need a partner like Russell, who he doesn't have software or products, but he has the reach where he can reach the audience. So I'm like, that's it. Because I know a guy who partnered with Russell Brunson, who did $1 million product launch. And he told me that he thinks, I'm like the best marketer that he's ever met. And if I ever need anything, he'd be happy to help me in some way. So I thought, you know what? If I just reach out to this guy and have this guy reach out to Russell, I can get some FaceTime with Russell and I can show him what I have. And I told my wife, I was like, I'm going to make it happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm not sure exactly how yet. But I was like, she's like, I believe you. I know I've seen all the stuff I've seen with law of attraction. I believe that it's going to happen too. I was like, okay, well, I go to bed. I wake up in the morning and I go to La Jolla Shore in San Diego to meet this guy. And it's 9:30 in the morning. And we walk down the beach and he starts asking me a few questions. He's like, what? He says, I made 7 figures in Australia. I got a divorce. I lost everything. And now I'm back to, I have a suitcase and, I have a credit card. And what is the fastest path that you can recommend for me to get to, $10,000 a month? I said, well, that's pretty easy. I said, if you want the fastest path, it's probably to put yourself in the middle between a deal. You find somebody who has one thing and somebody who has something else, and you make that deal happen and you just get 10% of it. That's the easiest, fastest path if you can make that happen. And he's like, oh, that's cool. So like, for example, like you have all this software, because we'd already talked about this. You have all this software, and he's like, and Russell Brunson has all this traffic and stuff. So if I brought you guys together to do like a launch or something, and then I get 10% of it, then that would be like an example, right? I was like, yeah, that's a great example. And my mind is already going like, whoa, I just thought about this last night. And he's like, he goes, oh, okay, great. That's easy. I said, well, slow down. The problem is Russell Brunson, he's not attainable. He's not accessible, because he's sort of a celebrity and difficult. It's not as easy as it sounds. He goes, no, you don't understand. And he pulls out of his back pocket this piece of paper. because I already have a contract with Russell Brunson. I wrote in, I told him my story, and I won a contest where I have a contract with Russell Brunson. He will do an email promotion of any product that I create and set in front of him. And for the last 6 months, I've been creating this product with a partner. He pulled out at the last minute. And now I have this contract with Russell. He'll promote anything that I bring to him, but I don't have a product. Would you be open or interested in partnering with me? And we just take one of your products. And I mean, I got to tell you, even now to this day, it kind of gives me chills to realize I had a vision for something so specific. I didn't know Russell. I'd never met Russell. And I had no idea that this guy had a contract with Russell. But just by opening myself up and just going with the flow and believing that something was going to happen, it manifested itself literally within 12 hours.
Yeah, that's insane.
And it's not like it's some random thing. It's extremely specific.
Yeah.
Extremely specific. Like, you can know at that point, I could no longer believe that it was coincidence. I could only believe that I manifested that reality.
And yeah, and like, I mean, for me, even as well, sometimes you think like, is it actually like real or whatever? But like, when you do something like that, like the fact that like that surreal experience you have there is like the same surreal experience I'm having right now. And like when I first met you in Bali, and specifically now, I know we've discussed a lot of this stuff before, but I think it's really cool just to put this out there, like video format for like my followers and stuff, to actually sort of get an inside view of our relationship and like how I've grown and stepped into this and used these sort of abilities to put myself in the position where I'm at, and then, you know, to help other people, right? Because that's sort of the goal. Because the more the way I see it is like, the more people I can help like level up, the better life I'm going to have and the better life everyone else is going to have. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just about to say something, but I forgot.
I can say from my point of view, I've witnessed that transformation happen, you know, and you start, I mean, especially at such a young age, you know, you're 19 years old and you just embark on this journey. You get this idea sparked, this belief, you know, sparked. And then the next thing you know, you're off to the races and you're developing yourself, you know, you're making these big, you know, goals for yourself. And then the next day, I mean, it seems like overnight, you know, you have success and you're just like right in the middle of it. We're doing an interview. And then, you know, less than a year later, you're walking across the stage, you know, at one of my live events.
Yeah.
Then you're at my house personally hanging out together in Bali. And the next thing you know, we're business partners and we're aligned to do, you know, a massive product launch together. Yeah. And you put yourself in a position to not only help your brother and pay off your parents' mortgage and make money and drive fancy cars and stuff, but rather to impact the lives of hundreds, if not thousands of other people. And this is just like your second or third year, man. Like, yeah, no, imagine where you'll be when you're 30. And most people out there, you know, if I don't know your audience, you know, what the age range of your audience is on your channel, but a lot of younger people don't believe that it's possible. And a lot of older people believe it's too late. But, yeah, you know, we have students that are in their 60s and 70s that are killing it, doing $150,000 a month. And we have students like Chris who are 19 years old and doing, you know, probably better than anybody else, you know, literally making, you know, $20,000 a day, $10,000 a day profits consistently. Like, you know, it is possible for anyone. And I think that
yeah, no, I'll beep it.
It is possible for anyone. And I believe that, you know, Epic is here. I like to call you Epic, not Epic, because that's my experience with you, is that it is possible for anyone. And I think that, you know, you're just you're a great example and a great inspiration to people that anybody can do it. And, you know, that there is a pathway forward to get the results. It's not luck, you know. Don't confuse, you know, manifesting or attracting something into your life as being luck. It's not luck.
You create your own luck.
Yeah, you know? You really do. And it all starts with, you know, turning a corner and rejecting the status quo, everything that you've been taught, all of the belief system that has been imprinted on you from your upbringing, from society, everything that, that's why I think the Matrix is a good, sort of analogy, of reality, because it is so true to reality. It's like you probably are sitting there feeling like what I'm being spoon fed is not reality. That's not real. I know it's not. I feel it. I know that something isn't right here. And you're absolutely right. It's not real. You're being spoon fed the storyline, the narrative that serves the greater good of the super elite powers in the world, who utilize you and your energy as a tool to achieve their outcome, not yours. They're not here for you. They're there. You're here for them. And as soon as you can break the strings, the puppet strings, and no longer do what you've been taught to do, suddenly you can go out and create a different, better reality for yourself. And then you can bring those kind of results to a community where you're a leader in that community. You're not being led, you're leading. And it's possible for anyone. It really, truly is.
Yeah. And I think that's like a brilliant part to end off here. I'll have Gerry on for more like podcasts and stuff to dive into like some more sort of, really interesting knowledge that you just tapped on there. But I think this, interview and conversation here just really serves as a point for most people, because I mean, to you now, you're my friend, you're my business partner, but for other people, you're just like when I first view you, like some super successful business guy who's got it all figured out and all that sort of stuff, right? But you're actually like the humility and the mindset stuff that you like just basically like emit like out of your aura or whatever. Like, a lot of people can feel that, and like the way there's a lot of gurus and shit out there, and that's definitely not the sort of vibe that our sort of community gives, because it's all about actually helping people. It's not just some, here's a strategy. It's like, fix your mindset. Here's the tools. And that's like the key component of everyone that sort of has success and stuff within our community. But I just really think I think this is going to be like a pretty pivotal interview and conversation for many people out there, just to hear the thoughts of someone like yourself and to see the progress and the growth that I have had through implementing all this stuff that most people don't even consider in their life,
Yeah, I have hopes that a lot of people that are listening to this call right now I just hope that you'll be inspired in some way, and that it might help shift your trajectory in a direction that serves your greater good, so that you can achieve some amazing ultimate outcomes in your own life. I hope that you can learn a little bit from epoch.
That's right. It's fine. Yeah.
But I hope that people out there will really, garner a lot of from your experiences, and see that you're really bringing value to your community. I really genuinely believe that anybody out there, listen to this guy's words, really go deep on this stuff. And if you're looking for some change in your life, you're in the right place at the right time. Definitely, anybody out there wants to connect with me too, feel free. I would love to hear any success stories from any of your students as well, many of your audience.
At Gerry Cramer on Instagram, everyone. I'll put a tag up, and I'll tag you in.
Sure.
And all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, guys, awesome. This is like the first sort of long form thing I've done here. So definitely look forward to more of this. I'll have Gerry on again to discuss sort of more. This was sort of more of like a story journey type thing to inspire you guys of like my sort of growth. But we'll definitely be doing some more sort of content like this, which would be pretty sick. So hope everyone gains a lot of value from this. And the saying, like, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And if you want to think that you watching this video is a coincidence or not, however you may see it, but as Gerry said, I hope this actually serves as like a pivotal point for many people to start pursuing the life that they really want to start living. So we'll leave it at that, guys. Hope everyone has a good day.